Chair and Madam XO, or Executive Director, shall I say. I would like to wish all the ladies here happy Mother's Day coming. So to you all, I say thank you very much. Happy Mother's Day.
Well, thank you. That was perfect timing, and with that, it's 2:30, and we'll bring the meeting to order. All right, so this is welcome everyone. This is a great day in Brevard County. This is the Space Coast TPO's Governing Board meeting, and today is May 8th, 2025. We're calling this meeting to order. Please stand with me for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Zoe, do we have please conduct the roll call, and do we have a quorum?
Okay. Atkinson? Here. Altman? Allender?
Present.
Blake?
Present, ma'am.
Capizzi? Cole?
Yes.
Connors? Here. Delaney? Feltner? Forrester?
Here.
Foy?
Here.
Goodson? Hammer?
Present.
Hanley?
Here.
Jaffe?
Here.
Johnson? Kennedy? Smith? Young?
Here.
And then we do have one representing alternate, Willis.
Here.
Okay.
And Cost.
Yes. Cost, yes. He's just representing his area today. Yep, we have quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Currently, members of the public are invited to offer general comments unrelated to the agenda item. Do we have any public comments for non-agenda? All right, for agenda items, please fill out a speaker card and you will be called upon when the item is discussed. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. We'll start off with reports. Georgiana?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, members. In your agenda package, you have the TPO project status and updates for April, and also the public engagement report. And Abby is going to come up and give a report. Normally, we would have this as a standing item on the director's report, but we, are sensitive to time. But since public engagement and outreach is important to the board, and I don't have a very lengthy report, we thought Abby could present real quick.
Thank you so much. So my name is Abby Hemingway. I'm our Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO. And before we chat about some upcoming public involvement opportunities for May, I just wanted to briefly touch on a few wins for our organization and give some community partner shout-outs. So March was a busy month for us. First off, our team attended the FDOT Central Florida Community Traffic Safety Team Summit, representing our local Brevard County Community Traffic Safety Team, which is made up of our law enforcement agencies, also transportation, traffic engineers, where we connected with others across the region. It was a really insightful event where we heard from all different topics due to education, enforcement, and engineering. So great to be a part of that. Later that same week, we also partnered with Titusville Fire Department, Titusville Police Department to teach students some essential bike safety skills during a bike rodeo at St. Teresa's Catholic School. It was always great to see the kiddos learning safety skills at a young age, so a great partnership there. And lastly, we participated in FDOT Central Florida's Safety Strategic Planning Steering Committee in Cape Canaveral, and some key takeaways we had were data-driven decision-making, expanding community education, and really collaboration across our agencies, which has been a theme here at our governing board meetings as well. Of special note at that meeting that we had, the TPO was also presented an opportunity to showcase our media relations best practices, our transportation safety series that we had done with Florida Today. Moving on, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to some of our community partners, and I wanted to spotlight law enforcement because we've talked about that a little bit in this room here. So this just is a snapshot. There's awesome enforcement happening all across our district here. But up in the left corner, that's in Titusville, the PD and I Go Now Roadside, which is a towing company, partnered together during prom week to stage a damaged vehicle to remind students about the dangers of drunk driving. And I think it's a really impactful message to have that on campus. So wanted to give a shout out to them. The right upper corner, Cocoa PD, took advantage of the high visibility enforcement funding by FDOT to complete enforcement details for bicycle and pedestrian safety education. Below that, Satellite Beach stepped up their education efforts for Florida Bike Month by sharing some bike safety information on social media. And then down in the middle there, Palm Bay PD hosted a bike safety rodeo for school-age kids utilizing their new bike unit officers, which is pretty cool. And lastly, a huge shout out to West Melbourne PD for going all out for Crossing Guard Appreciation Day down there in the left-hand corner. Many of our police departments did a fantastic job of highlighting these super safety heroes. And then talking about Vision Zero in action, I wanted to highlight a specific social media campaign that we worked with the City of Cocoa and Cocoa PD. We now have our 6 PHBs live on Clear Lake Road. And so ahead of that, knowing that we wanted to educate the community, we got together and created some messaging in support of FDOT District 5. And so this is just a snapshot here of some of the messaging that we'll continue to push out over May, just to continue that education process. Once again, now that we have a new community engagement coordinator on board, Leah has been helping us with some targeted messaging. This is just a snapshot of some of the campaigns that we did in April. Thank you to those municipalities and partners who continue to share our message. It takes a village. We can't do it alone, so thank you so much. And now looking forward to May. May is National Bike Month, so this is the time to celebrate the benefits of bicycling, to also talk about how it's an additional transportation, use of transportation. And so we'll be sharing some fun ideas with the public on our social channels, attending events across the community, and also even challenging our own staff to do some bicycle activities. Hopefully you saw in your community, yesterday was Bike and Roll to School Day, and so we were out in the community. I want to give a shout out to Apollo Elementary in Titusville. We were up there, and Titusville PD was up there with us too. Also, we were down in Palm Bay with Palm Bay PD at Westside Elementary, so it was really great to see students engaged yesterday and trying, if they don't ride to school, trying a different form of transportation. And then we also went to Roosevelt Elementary yesterday, where they installed new bike lane designs that were student artwork on Minuteman Causeway, which is really cool. And then looking ahead, we have some upcoming events of special note up here on the slide. I did want to call attention to, we are doing a helmet fit certification class on May 14th from 2 to 4:30 at Rockledge Public Safety Community Room. And so if you have any city staff or any law enforcement agencies that you'd like to see start doing helmet fits in your communities, they can, once they become certified, they can order materials and helmets for free. It's a really great program that's offered still through FDOT. And so reach out to Leah or I, and we can get you connected there. And then here are just a few more snapshots of some social media topics that we're going to be covering. Specifically, I want to draw attention to Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. We have had an uptick in motorcycle fatalities here in our county. Just this year alone, we've had 5 fatalities that were motorcyclists. So we're going to be drawing attention with a specific campaign that Leah created. And so we will be pushing that out to our partners to share across the platforms so that we can continue to push the education message. And last but not least, it's our favorite time of year. If you're new to this board, every year we host an annual open house that you can come and learn about the TPO. We also, you'll be hearing more from Sarah and Georgiana about this. It's also our public comment period to give comments on the draft list of project priorities and also the draft transportation improvement program. So it's a unique chance for the public to come and learn what we're all about, but then also we'll have some great hands-on activities for them and some methods that they can educate themselves a little bit better about our process. And then just one last plug before I leave. If your jurisdictions or communities are doing any events that you'd like to see the TPO out, kind of pushing traffic safety or transportation, please invite us. We do as much community research as we can on calendars and things like that, but oftentimes you are in the know before we are. So please reach out to Leah. Leah, raise your hand. Reach out to Leah if there's a specific event that you'd like us at, and we'd be more than happy to make sure that we can be out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Effie. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just so I don't want to get anybody confused, the agenda, the notice about the open house.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. Yeah, it's Wednesday, June.
It shows it is Tuesday.
Yes.
And it's on Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, June 11th.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
All right, the Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee report, Georgiana.
The Technical and Citizens Advisory Committees met on Monday, and you have a summary of actions at your place. They approved the consent agenda and heard all of the presentations that you will be hearing today. And you also have the TAC-CAC attendance record, just for your information to kind of let you know your members' attendance. That is the report.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have the Space Coast Area Transit report, and Terry Jordan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Terry Jordan, Space Coast Area Transit. I have a brief report on transit-related items for over the last previous months. Our ridership continues to increase. We're looking at a 5.36% increase of year-to-date ridership over previous year at this time. Our most recent monthly ridership is showing almost a 7% increase when compared to this time last year as well. Our paratransit, which is a door-to-door service that we operate, is also seeing growth and a rebound with a 5% increase over year-to-date ridership also. Recently, we've received over the last 6 months 4 new paratransit vehicles, which provides that service to our disabled and transportation disadvantaged passengers. And thanks to the Board of County Commissioners, a recent application was approved for our receiving FDOT funds, and thank you to Chuck and your team as well for the funds we received that will allow us to purchase 6 additional new paratransit vehicles over the next several months. In addition, we will be looking to purchase 3 fixed route Gillig buses, which are in the process of order now, and they take about 18 months before they're built and arrive. That is my brief report. If there are any questions, be glad to answer.
Any questions for Terry? No, thank you,
Thank you,
Terry.
Madam Chair. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you very much. All right, Florida Department of Transportation, Chuck Cupperno.
Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you.
There we go. So as Abby mentioned, this is Motorcycle Awareness Month. So the only thing I'm going to add for anybody who rides a motorcycle is to ride smart. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmets when you ride. Ride in control and within legal and personal limits. Train regularly and get endorsed. And also to remind motorists, we always got to keep our necks on a swivel to look for those motorcycles. Double check lanes and when you're going to turn, because they can appear out of nowhere. So we all know that as well. As I stated at the last meeting, April 21st to the 25th was Work Zone Awareness Week. So the FDOT partnered up with law enforcement at selected existing work zones to perform educational stops. As we can see here, we have pictures of a Florida Highway Patrolman who was at the State Road 405 project issuing bracelets for Work Zone Awareness Week and also handing out those flyers that look very much like a traffic ticket, showing what we need to watch for when we're coming into a work zone. And also I mentioned last meeting the inaugural transportation industry hiring event, which took place on April 30th. I was also there as a navigator to help prospective applicants find the different booths for the particular skill set they were offering. It was a very good event. FDOT, in fact, hired 10 new people at the event right there on the spot with the interviews they conducted. So it was a very rewarding experience to be a part of that, and a lot of people came out pretty happy. And finally, tomorrow is the second annual Safety Summit at the Daytona Speedway. We're expecting a full house since all the tickets have been sold. Were sold out last week. Here you see some highlights from last year's summit. For those of you who attended, you are aware of how impactful that summit was. So for those of you who are attending for the first time this week, I'm confident that you will experience the same. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Cupperno? No, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Very much. All right, consent agenda. Georgiana, would you please read the consent agenda aloud for the record?
Sure. 4A is the TPO Governing Board meeting minutes of April the 10th. 4B is committee appointments, and you do have an add-on at your place. 4C is a work order 25-19K. That's the 2024 State of the System Report, which is our congestion management program. 4D is acceptance of our annual audit for fiscal year 2024, no findings and no corrective actions. And then 4E is intent, it's a letter of intent to renew interlocal agreement and a lease agreement with Brevard County Board of County Commissioners. So that is the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda? Motion, Mimi Henley. And second from Katie Delaney. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, next item. Presentations, the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan Financial Resources. Nick, thank you.
Good afternoon. Nick Lepp from HDR. I'm supporting the TPO on developing the 2050 long-range plan. We're going to be here giving a brief update as it kind of fits within the agenda. You're going to see all three of these core major products that the TPO has to complete within this agenda. So we're going to talk about the long-range plan, which is kind of the first pillar there, and that's the overarching vision document that's used to help develop this transportation improvement program, which you will see later on. But that bridge is the list of priority projects, which bridges that gap between what that long-range plan is and those projects going into the transportation improvement program. Just to let you know where we're at right now, we've started this quite a while ago. It takes a bit to start developing this plan as you go through the goals and objectives, existing conditions, developing those needs. That took quite a bit as we tried to go out there and work with all of your local government staff to figure out what those needs were for the community out to 2050. But right now we're in the financial resources stage and really getting to the end of determining what is cost feasible, which is the ultimate goal of this plan, to figure out what projects we reasonably believe we can fund through the year 2050. What has to be in the plan? We need to identify the federal, the state, and the local funding resources that we reasonably believe will be there through 2050. For example, through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, there were carbon reduction funds that were included in there. Those funds have since been sent back to the federal government, so we are not including those in this plan because it's not reasonable to assume that those funds will be available to help support or implement a project in the future. When I say fiscally constrained cost feasible plan, I'll explain that in a slide in a little bit, meaning we can't spend more money than we have available. We have to look at these in 5-year increments, and we have to make sure that we can only spend the funds within those 5 years, and we can't go beyond that to make sure that we are determined that this plan is not only cost feasible, but implementable. And then we do have a kind of a new nuance within this plan. Before, when you would fund any phase of a project, it was considered cost feasible. Even if you were only funding the design in the last kind of horizon year, it was thought of as cost feasible. Now, the plan will have what is cost feasible through construction. So we will know those projects that we reasonably believe will be constructed or funded for construction through 2050. The list will still have a lot of partially funded projects as we're still trying to advance these projects because we just don't stop at 2050, we gotta keep going beyond. But they will not be listed as, say, cost feasible. So it may be a little different than what you're seeing in the current 2045 plan and what we'll be producing in 2050, not only with that change, but also with the financial resources, which I'll go into in a few minutes. So some of the major changes within this, as I mentioned just there, the cost feasible plan must be identified just for construction as cost feasible. There's been a large shift from discretionary funding within the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to more of that formula-based funding. So we're seeing some of that come down within the financial resources. The state did return those carbon relief funds back to the federal government, so those we cannot use in our estimate of what's cost feasible for those resources. And then a couple other nuances that we're adding in, with new stormwater regulations that could increase the cost of these projects as we're forecasting what the construction cost will be 15, 20 years from now. Also, there's a lack of mitigation credits. So we're looking at where the environmental hazards are, and that could also increase the cost of some of these projects. And then materials, labor, and inflation, which I think you've heard this for the past 5 years, it's all gone up, which is creating a problem with making these projects implement within that time frame as the cost keeps increasing. The funding framework changed a little bit from the 2045 plan to this plan right now. Previously, the TPO really got to work with 2 pots of funding, and those are the 2 boxes kind of in the middle. The state's strategic intermodal system is at the purview of the Department of Transportation. Those are the major highways and interstates that connect the ports and the airports. The other arterials and the TMA funds, those were the 2 pots of funds that the TPO used in the last plan to help develop that cost-feasible 2045. Now within this round, they have divided those funds up. So instead of having a big bucket of funds called other arterials where all the money went into like one checking account, we have multiple checking accounts. Federal and state and eligibility of each one of those. So we need to now make sure that we are matching up not only the projects with the eligible cost, whether it's federal or state funded, which then does change kind of how this plan is put together. It's not just one big pot of funds. We actually have to divide it up a little bit more And then you'll start seeing that when I start presenting the financial resources. Another element that we're considering is that the department is looking more towards maintaining their system. As per state statute, they have to have a very high quality of their roads, bridges within the state. So a lot of the funding that was forecasted or is forecasted for the future compared to 2045 has gone down a little bit with state funding as they are looking to preserve the system more so than rely on additional capacity. Still providing additional capacity, but there's not enough money to do both. So as we're looking at the financial resources, that is something that we will be considering as we're developing this cost feasible plan. So here's kind of one of the ahas. Comparing the two plans of last year, what was available over the 20-year period, to what we have available over this 20-year planning period, we're down about $700 million in total. But if you look at it, those proportions were much different from 2045, where the state had that largest portion of funding, and the remaining federal funds were kind of small that could go on the remaining network throughout the region. That's now inversed. So the state funds, which can go on the state highway system, is much less than we had last time, only about $80 million over the 20-year period, which is about the cost of Ellis Road. But the federal funds increased, so that means there's more opportunities for other projects off the state road system within this long-range plan. As I was mentioning, we have this funding within 5-year blocks. We cannot spend more than we have available within that 5 years. So when you look at some of the smaller amounts of $20 million over that 5-year period, it's going to be very difficult to advance a lot of these projects that we're seeing, which are very high dollar costs. So we'll be looking at how do we really balance out of what we can fund based on the priorities and what's available for resources. Here's a little table as I was trying to demonstrate what fiscal constraint means. As we're putting in project A, B, and C, they all can't be funded or constructed, or the planning phases, design phases, and construction can't all go in one 5-year block. It takes 15 to 20 years for a project to get built. So as we're planning these phases out and looking at where we can fund them within those 5-year increments, you could see that we don't have enough money to fund the construction within that 2041 to 2045 timeframe. It would actually have to get moved out, so when design's done, you would still have to wait 5 more years before the money was available to actually construct that project. And that's where the fiscal constraint occurs within the plan itself, and why we need to make sure that we have that money in there as we're planning these projects out for the future. So just as a little comparison, bringing back that chart of 2045 and 2050, and gets what we have for needs. So as we're forecasting what we're going to be able to produce for the plan, we're estimating about 17% of the needs we can probably fund within the plan. So that's quite a bit of unfunded needs still out there within the region through 2050. So I'll pause with that and see if there are any questions before I go into kind of our next steps for plans.
Any questions before we move on? No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Mr. Hammer.
Do you ever have communication with the actual cities to see what their application to this, say they want to pay for half of it?
So
Does any of that ever get brought into here when you're designating who's going to get it? Because, one city might be willing to pay a lot more than another city, to where that's going to help out a city where it's going to be a little higher or lower on your long range. And I mean, there's cities that are willing to pay more, but they're not even mentioned on there. So how does that work?
Well, so that's what we're doing right now. We're actually meeting with all the local government partners, looking at where your impact fees are and some of the projects that you're trying to push forward with either developer funding or impact fee funding, because that helps complement this plan. We don't just focus just on the federal and state projects. We're putting in all the projects that are anticipated to be done throughout 2050, because there could be some overlap. There could be a benefit of a local project that then negates a need for another project. So we do include all of that. Now, what the TPO doesn't have is purview over the spending of those impact fees or local dollars. So a lot of that we rely on the local governments to tell us, yes, we're going to have this project that will be developer funded, or this project which we're going to pay for all impact fees. So no, you don't need to put that on the federal or state list. And that's how we kind of work through this cost feasible plan as we develop it. And that can change. And that's where the local governments and the TPOs need to work together throughout the 5 years to help really maintain this plan and make sure that it's moving forward.
I
Okay.
Please continue. Yes.
All right. Well, like I said, this was just kind of a little preview of where we're at with the long-range plan. There's still a little bit more going on, as we're going to have some working group meetings coming up in May to discuss what the draft cost feasible plan is. We'll also be presenting that at the open house, as was mentioned in June, and then going to the other committees as we're doing this draft cost feasible plan of what we think we can afford and where we may be able to move and adjust things before we present it back to you all for adoption in September.
Any questions? I don't see anything. No
All right.
questions.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nick. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is the draft fiscal year 2026 list of project priorities. Sarah.
All right, good afternoon. Sarah Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. We are moving from our LRTP and moving on to the bridge, and so this is where we are in the implementation of projects, essentially this presentation. So our list of project priorities, the TPO develops a list of project priorities annually, and this is through several processes that I'll go over in just a second. And essentially, the list of project priorities is the mechanism that is used to take those cost-feasible projects out of a 25-year LRTP and basically prioritize them to actually receive that funding, which then ultimately goes into the Transportation Improvement Program, which Georgiana will be presenting on shortly. So the list of project priorities has a specific procedure that we follow, PR 07-01. You can find that on our website. And through this, we rank projects based on two different methodologies. Quantitative scoring, which is basically 0 to 100, data-based points. So it's very specific criteria that we go through and monitor all of the projects on the list of project priorities annually. You also have discretionary ranking, which a committee or a board, well, one of our committee members can make a recommendation to the board, but ultimately board members, so you, can make a recommendation to rank a project in a different location than it's being ranked naturally through the data. Basically, everyone, it would have to go through a motion and everyone agree. Projects are also based according to readiness and a finish what we started direction. So if a project only needs construction or partial construction, that project's instantly going to go up to the top. As far as the criteria goes, as I mentioned, it's 0 to 100, and all of those criteria points fall within these 5 emphasis areas. So we have safety, so targeting our high crash corridors and safety issues. Transportation and land use, making sure that our citizens have access to community resources, schools, activity centers, parks, hospitals. Resiliency and sustainability, so improving water quality, improving drainage. Innovation, is it a project that includes a unique solution, or is it or includes ITS? And then multimodal, so we want to make sure that we're addressing all road users. So what's new this year? So we did not conduct an annual call for projects this year. This is for several reasons. One, as you just saw with the development of the long-range transportation plan, we didn't want to add a bunch of new projects to the list of project priorities when they might not even be cost feasible come September when we adopt that plan. But also and you'll see as we walk through the projects, is we don't have a lot of money in our boxes for the next 5 years. And so setting up a false expectation of, hey, what project do you want funded in the next 5 years when we already have a hefty list of project priorities we didn't feel was appropriate. So that doesn't mean nothing changed. We did update the project funding in phases, so some projects that have received funding for design or right-of-way would now be changed to needing the next phase. We moved the COCO multimodal station to the Strategic Intermodal System list, or SIS list. We will be pursuing a SIS designation. Really, we were trying to figure out the right location for this project because it's such a unique project and it doesn't really fit with most of our other projects. But we do believe it is eligible to be added to the SIS network. Now, that being said, we will not be pursuing SIS funding for that project. It is a grant-funded project. We also made the decision to separate the regionally significant projects into state and non-state roads. We felt this told our story better of really adding emphasis to what your local needs are. And then we added the I-95 PD&E from St. John's Heritage Parkway to State Road 519 Fisk, simply for planning consistency. We did have 5 projects that moved off of our list of project priorities and onto our fully funded list. Those are Jackson Ave Complete Street, that was funded with $1.9 million of federal funds from the TPO, and the City of Satellite put $2 million up. Ellis Road widening, I know we've discussed it many times, so a SIB loan was eventually added to, or was awarded to fill in the last bit of that funding. However, both the TPO and FDOT will be paying back the SIB loan in the coming years. There was a State Road 3 safety project from Catalina Isle to State Road 528 that the state has funded for $3 million. The PHB mid-block crossing that in Cape Canaveral that we voted on at our last meeting, the TPO funded. And then we also funded the Malabar Road ITS project from St. John's Heritage Parkway to San Felipe Drive in 2029 for $4.1 million. And that project will really help improve through coordinated light systems to move people quicker. So as I mentioned, we have completed the funding of Ellis Road 4 laning. It's been a long time #1 priority for the TPO in this community. And so the SIB loan will cover $15 million, and in 2027 and 2028, FDOT will be paying back $3.75 million respectively. In 2029 and 2030, the TPO will be paying back $3 million in 2029 and $3.75 million in 2030. Clearing and grubbing has been funded and is expected to begin shortly. I was just down there this weekend and it hasn't started yet, but I'm sure we're all anticipating seeing movement on this project. We also had some completed projects. So US 1, or almost completed, by the time we adopt the LOP, they will be completed. So US 192 and Hollywood Evans intersection improvements, the State Road 405 NASA Causeway Bridge, the State Road 520 Complete Street improvements, and then the State Road 501 Clear Lake Safety Project. So moving forward into reviewing our draft list of project priorities, the strategic intermodal system list. I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to talk about every single project, but just highlight some changes or some things that I think are important to mention. So as I did mention, we did move the Cocoa Multimodal Station onto this list. It has applied for a federal grant, and so hopefully, the City of Cocoa will hear shortly about that grant. And as I also mentioned, we've added the I-95 widening PD&E to here as well. That is only partially funded. There is an additional $5.4 million needed. To highlight some projects on this list, we have the 528 6-laning and 401 bridge replacement. These are critical projects for our space community, our port community, our tourism. They're definitely very well needed. They have been a little bit stagnant, and as you can see, the construction estimates have really increased over the last several years to where essentially all 3 projects equal to $1 billion. Now, the State Road 528 design is underway or has been underway under FDOT. There is going to be a resurfacing on 401, so that'll improve pavement condition, but once again, it doesn't fix the problem. So the next project I wanted to mention was the I-95 8-laning. And so the PD&E phase is under contract, but there is that shortfall. We do want to commend the City of Palm Bay as they did put $1 million towards that PD&E. And there is a resurfacing that is starting very shortly. That is not the widening. They are 2 very different projects. So if you see action on 95, regretfully, it's not the widening. So then moving on to our regionally significant state roadways. Some of these projects, so it's really kind of difficult to see how projects shuffled. We update our scoring every single year based on current statuses of congestion, where they fall in the high entry network, et cetera. So you are going to see some movement, but it's really hard to compare apples to apples this year because of us splitting the 2 regionally significant lists. But what I do want to mention is that the State Road 519 at Roy Wall Boulevard intersection improvement has jumped to #1 because of that finish what we start mentality of all it needs is construction. And so we want to make sure that we're moving those projects that we've already invested in to the finish line. So that is now number one. And then as you flow down the list, we have Clear Lake Road 524, A1A Complete Street 405, 514. And then moving to kind of towards the end of the list, the state road portion of Babcock, which is from Malabar to Palm Bay, A1A Curb and Gutter Project, US 1 at Vieira, 518 at Wickham, and US 1 Barnes and O'Galley at Sarno. So just to highlight some of the projects once again, there is the A1A Complete Street Project from International Drive to Long Point. The International Drive to Long Point is fully funded and construction is anticipated in fiscal year 27. The A1A Long Point to George King, curb and gutter, median, sidewalk, much larger project. The right-of-way funding is currently unfunded, and so it's about a total of $43 million short when you put both the construction and right-of-way together. Another major project is the State Road 524 four-laning. The PD&E is complete. Design phase has been awarded. The TPO and the City of Cocoa invested into the design phase. And so now we're looking at funding right-of-way, which I just got updated estimates for $11.5 million, and the construction is unfunded for $35 million. We are exploring phasing options with the City of Cocoa and FDOT. State Road 501 Clear Lake four-laning connects into 524. This project is currently under a PD&E update, as it was originally completed with a State Environmental Impact or SEER report, and so we need to upgrade it to a PD&E in order for it to be allowable to take federal funds. So currently they are updating both the PD&E as well as also the design. Right-of-way, $20 million, construction, $13 million. And then the last state road I wanted to highlight was the State Road 405 South Street Corridor Study from 50 to US 1. The corridor study is underway. The TPO did invest in that corridor study. And really the next phase that would be needed is the PD&E. It's probably around 1.9, 2.1 million. We won't know an exact cost until that corridor study gets further along, which there is a presentation coming up from FDOT in the next several months on that full project. The regionally significant non-state roadways is as follows. The only real change is that Babcock Street used to only be listed as one project for the whole length, but due to conversations with the city on looking at potentially phasing that in order to get something done, we've split it out into four. So the major projects are the Malabar Road four-laning. The PD&E is almost wrapped up for that, and once again, the City of Palm Bay, as well as also the TPO, invested in the design. So as soon as the PD&E is wrapped up tight, anticipated this summer, it'll be able to go into design. Now that being said, right-of-way is still unfunded. It's only $2.4 million, so it is a smaller right-of-way estimate. There's also utility relocations for 9.7, and then in your package, it said $100 million. I actually just 2 days ago received updated estimates, and we're up to $168 million to construct the project. Also mentioned the Babcock Street four-laning previously, and so currently the PD&E is on the shelf. Design is unfunded. For the whole of it, it would be $19 million, but we're having discussions with Palm Bay to try to pinpoint a segment. The city and county has also funded interim improvements at intersections. I just want to briefly just draw attention that we do have two other lists within our list of project priorities. The Transportation Systems Management and Operations, so this is looking at those ITS or technology projects. They can be a lot of bang for your buck. If you've ever been going through a corridor and you hit every single red light, or you go green, red because they're not properly coordinated, it can definitely add time to your trip. I also wanted to draw attention to the bicycle and pedestrian list, mostly because if you will notice, it is completely all state roads. And so next year, really consider and talk to your staff about, are there are there sidewalks that are eligible for the specific funds? Because we have a box of money called Transportation Alternatives, and it is meant to be worked on sidewalks. And so are there sidewalks around your schools or community centers that really could impact the quality of life of your citizens? And then finally, the current TPO funding availability. So this is when Georgiana and I talk about our boxes. These are boxes, our funds. And you'll see, because we've already committed to the Ellis Road funding as well as also the Malabar Road ITS, we really don't have a lot of boxes coming up in the next several years. It's in order to advance these projects, we're going to be needing to look at funding partnerships or potentially discretionary grants or something to actually move something forward that isn't already fully funded. So with that, I would like to open it up for discussion. I'm going to go section by section so that we're not jumping back and forth. You do have the latest and greatest printout at your station. And so let me really quickly flip. And so to start off, is there any project that we'd like to further discuss on the SIS?
Mr. Allender, I saw your hand first.
Thank you. I'd like to address item 5 on the priority list, which involves the bridge replacement. The bridge replacement is extremely important to the space industry, SpaceX, the spaceport, and of course it's also important to Port Canaveral. I think that's a project that needs to be moved up in ranking because it is important, again, to the Air Force Station and the entire industry, which is important to Brevard County in general. So if it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion to discretionary rank State Road 401 Bridge Replacement Project number 2, rank it to number 2, move it to number 2, with State Road 528 East to State Road 3 to Port Canaveral, project number 3, and project number 4 stay the same. So project number 5 would be moved and replaced to project ranking number 2.
Swapping 2 and 5.
Yes.
Second.
For discussion.
Mr. Blake, sorry, Mayor Blake?
Okay, yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure we're just moving just this one particular. Number 1.
At this moment.
Number 1 is still number 1 now.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure that I have.
Mayor will take number 2 all the time.
Yes, sir. I understand, sir, and I'm supporting you being number 2 wholeheartedly. I support that. Then number 3 would remain the same. State Road 528 would remain the same as number 3.
Correct.
Correct? So it'd be, I just want a point of clarification. Cocoa Multimodal Station is number 1. Number 2 would be State Road 401. And number 3 would be State Road 528. Now,
That's correct. That's correct.
okay.
And-
there's been
That's my motion.
All right, so we have a motion, Mr. Allender, and I did not see who did the second, Mimi, okay?
Space Florida project is going to number 5, correct? Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Allender. We have a second from Mimi Handley. All those in favor of making the switch, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
I see that Councilmember Forrester had.
Mr. Forrester, yes.
Yeah, I have a question on number 3 and 4, actually. Several years ago, we had a number of studies reported in concerning the environmental impacts of the causeways. How is that being figured into these 2 projects at all?
Correct, yes. It is, the bridge spans have been lengthened to, at the direction of this board. And so that is part of the reason why the costs have increased so much.
Specifically, Mr. Forrester, over the Banana River. So basically, 528 over the Banana River
That was our main
will
concern.
be a much longer
And higher.
bridge span. It did increase the cost. It was about 80 million.
Yes.
However, at some point in the future, if someone wanted to pursue causeway removal to improve the flow, which of course then would have to also happen at 520,
Right.
then it opens up that opportunity, and the DOT did agree to do that. So that is included in the cost, yes.
But we're still not removing the causeway.
That is not part of the
They're going to
project.
be there, but just kind of hanging there.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, yes, Mr. Jeffy?
So number 6, you know, obviously it's upon Bay, but to me, it's very low-hanging fruit. It's $500,000 compared to a lot of the larger figures on all these other projects. And the planning is completed. You know, I would like to make a motion that is moved to number 1.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Which one is he talking about?
Number 6
The I-95 and Malabar.
for
I-95.
$500,000.
Oh, the Cocoa multimodal, is that what he's saying?
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
You know, somebody just died there last week. 2 people
Two
just
people.
died there.
Okay, and I
And there's
understand
deaths
that
there
too as
weekly
well, sir. I think
or
we all
monthly.
experience fatalities.
I got you.
Okay.
I will say
Remember
that,
died
you
in
know,
the passenger rail.
yes, sir, I will say it's not competing against the Cocoa Station. You know, it's just grant funded, but I see your point. You know, sometimes it's more about perception, but it is not competing. So,
Should there be different ranking systems for different funding sources?
So we have struggled over the years of best communicating with FDOT in regards to the ranking and in regards to funding sources. And I mean, we've gone through iterations of this list where every project is all on one singular list, and we've also gone through processes similar to what you're saying. And if the project is on the list, it's considered for all funding sources. So you could, okay, well, sorry, let me back up. If the project is on the list and there is not a specific funding source it is pursuing, it is better for it to be listed with everything else so you're not limiting yourself. So if we were to split up into various funding sources and we literally put the project where it's only able to receive SU, you're then putting yourself in a box of other funding sources not being considered. So even though it can be a little bit confusing because the Cocoa Multimodal Station, as you'll see, is grant funding only, I would not want us to put ourselves in a box where we couldn't pursue multiple funding boxes. Also, when you look through, if you've had the opportunity to look through the TIP or the Transportation Improvement Program, almost all those projects have multiple funding sources on them. And so we have to cobble together pieces. So I would say no.
With that being said, the strategic intermodal system, so 75% of the state's funding goes to the SIS. So that's the big pot of money. And because that's really, these are the projects that are the backbone of Florida, high priority projects, such as the 401, 528, and I-95. I-95 and Malabar is so important. I anticipate that's probably going to get funded without the SIS, that the district is probably going to put their own money on it. And it's such a small amount of money for this improvement.
Wouldn't that make it more of a ability over the rest? Because you're talking about $1 billion before 500,000 is getting spent. We have to kind of grade these on the ability to get approved as well, not just that. I mean, I can go to Tallahassee and plead for 500 grand and probably get somebody to bite on it. I got to go through $1 billion to get that approved now. So it kind of, you know, there was a bunch of zeros up there when it showed funding for the next 3 years. So this is something that each and every one of us, when we go to Tallahassee and DC, have to plead for.
I will say that these projects are not funded by this pot of money. This is the strategic I mean, we could actually fund 500,000, you know,
If we had the money.
If we had the money.
We fund it.
But those, when you're looking at the $1 billion, that's not coming out of this box.
Yeah.
This is just the TPO's federal money.
Yeah,
The DOT
yeah.
has their own.
Yeah, but you as I mean, even you, if
Where
I
am I?
came
There I
here
am.
for 500 grand, it's
it's pretty slim
Yeah.
pickings.
It's gonna be more than likely approved over $1 billion.
Well, there's a motion on the table, and we'll obviously rank the projects according to the direction of the board. So-
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Delaney?
So just because these are listed in the rank that they're in right now, does it prohibit different projects from being funded?
Absolutely
No,
not.
no.
So like say, they say, hey, $500,000
Correct,
is open.
yes.
Yeah, no.
We could still go off of this list.
Correct,
and fund
yes.
that.
So-
It doesn't necessarily have to be moved.
There's
Now,
opportunities when like projects get delayed due to cost overage where it's no longer cost feasible for us to fund that project. And so, like, or FDOT in this situation to fund that project. So now they have $2 million that they need to throw somewhere, and we'll, get those types of phone calls. Also, annually, when we go through the funding discussions with FDOT, we're sitting there trying to match up what's available with the list of project priorities. So you start at the top, and, the top, there's going to the regionally significant state roadways, 3.5 million. Well, we don't have 3.5 million until 2023, or 2030, but what do we have in 2027? And so no, it doesn't prohibit, you're not like stuck until those projects before you are funded.
Okay.
What's the use of ranking them?
That's a good question.
Well, I'm not going to
Just
lie.
have a list of,
The ranking,
here's what we need and here's what we got. Let's-
yeah. It
I
doesn't
mean-
prohibit it for it to be funded, but I'm not going to lie. The priority order is important to the DOT.
Yes, we get asked, what's your number, your top 10 quite frequently.
All right, thank you. We move to the next section?
Well, I
we
believe
called
there's
it-
a motion
called
on
a
the
question.
table.
Well, we did. We had a motion and a second, and we voted on that. We just switched 5 and 2. And now we're switching 6. We're putting 6 where?
We haven't voted on
We
it.
didn't vote.
Called a question.
All right, I'm sorry. I missed then who?
The issue is to move number 6 to number 1, and everything else down 1.
Multimodal.
Okay, so all right. We
May
have
I
a motion
add-
from Mr.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Ms. Atkinson.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to maybe not move it to 1, but maybe move it to 3?
The temperature, yeah.
Yes.
State Road 528, man, that's leading into the war. That's why we.
Right.
That's why we.
I'm sorry, 3, I'm sorry, 3 as I'm looking at on the page, so it would actually be the
It's
one after.
$329 million, man.
Because I have to agree with the mayor. 528 is at a standstill, for 2 days out of our week. Pass it, every week. And everything going into the port is just at a total standstill.
Ms. Hanley.
For miles.
Just 2.
Yours went to
3 and 4 stay the same. 2 goes
Just a
to
minute, Ms.
5,
Hanley.
5 goes to 2.
All right, Ms. Handley?
My motion was
Yes.
clear. Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion to move 6 to,
More discussion.
I'm in Melbourne, and I go down to Palm Bay. I go into that where they're talking about. When you're going there, probably starting about now, or a little bit within 20 minutes from now.
It's a mile and a half back.
It is backed up, and it is dangerous. And I understand 528 is very important, but that is, and he's just saying, yesterday there was 2 people killed. It is a lot more than that's been. How many people have been hurt on it? And that, and I understand the rail system. I'm totally for the rail system, do not get me wrong. But as somebody that has gotten hurt from somebody not paying attention on the road, severely hurt, I have to agree with them to move up the interchange. Because when you're sitting there, you don't get off of that at the Malabar Road exit. And I don't know what time it is, by 3:30, 4 o'clock, forget it. You're backing up, and he's not kidding up. It's backed up, and it's not going to get any better. So that needs to be, for somebody to say, if you've gone there, I understand the 528 from the north part of the county. You don't understand. Come down to Palm Bay and go there at 4 o'clock and try to get off at the Malabar exit. on going southbound. It is very dangerous. So if you think that we're saying, oh, it's not important, the 528, we're not saying that's not important. I do agree with them that if you have to go there, I don't go there. I will go every way. I will go down Mitten Road before I will get on 95 to get off at Malabar Road because it's quicker and it's less dangerous. And that whole intersection should be redone. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if I'm...
That's fine.
I think Mr. Willis...
So here's how I look at it. and this
Wait,
is not-
Mr. Willis had his hand up.
So we're saying move 6 to 1,
6 to
No.
6 to 3,
original.
and then everything from 3 down.
That
just
wasn't what the
falls-
motion, the motion was to move 6 to 1.
But the friendly amendment was accepted. Was it not?
With the temperature, yes.
I haven't heard any friendly amendments.
There's no amendment yet.
No, she did
No,
make an
I made a
amendment.
friendly amendment, and I thought you said that you accepted it. Is that not correct?
Yeah, with the temperature of the room, I would accept it. I don't know about Mike, but.
I'd be willing.
Well, but moving it to 3, then 3, 4, 5 move down.
So that would be Cocoa Multimodal, 401, I-95 interchange at Malabar Road, then 528, I-95 widening. If I'm following correctly.
But additionally, we all are impacted by everything that's on that list.
That's true.
Everything dealing with 528 impacts whether I ever get off the island or not. So, everybody has skin in it.
Yep. These are the tough decisions of trying to balance, what is the regional significant priority.
I would.
All right, so the final, wait a minute, the final
I would like to just
motion.
state,
Question's been called, you got to vote.
I'm asking him to restate the motion so we know what we're voting for. We're changing 6 to 3?
The motion would be to move ranking item number 6 to number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Jaffe. And that was seconded by
myself.
Mr. Hammer. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hammer. All right, we have a motion on the table from Mr. Jaffe, a second from Mr. Hammer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote, please, Zoe.
Atkinson,
Yes.
Allender.
No.
Was Altman here? I'm sorry.
No.
No.
Okay.
Blake,
No.
Cole,
Yes.
Connors. Delaney,
No.
Forrester,
Yes.
Foy,
Yes.
Hammer,
Yes.
Hanley,
Yes.
Jaffe,
Yes.
Smith left, Young,
No.
and Willis. Did I miss anybody? We have 8 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 noes.
Motion carries. We've moved 6 to 3.
All right.
Next section?
So regretfully, we are on 2 pages. But we then move into the regionally significant. So these are just the state roadways that we're looking at. Any discussion on these projects?
These are just state
State roads.
State roads, correct.
Okay. I would like to make a motion
Mr. Blake?
to have State Road 524 as number 1. Number 2 would be State Road 501 Clear Lake Road. And number 3 will be State Road 405 South Street.
Second?
Motion Blake, second Delaney.
So we would go, for clarification, we have number 1, 524, number 2, 501, number 3, 405, number 4, 519 Roy Wall, Number 5, excuse me, I think I said number 5 last. Number 4, 519 Roy Wall, and then number 5 would be the State Road A1A, Complete Street.
I got obviously some problems with that. Our project up there that is currently number 1 for the first time in about 15
Ever.
years. Yeah. It's not, as we discussed earlier, it's not a huge project, but it is a significant project that impacts entry and exit to a school. It impacts a dangerous intersection that currently has no signalization, and I think we need to keep it up there. The other projects, we've got, the design is already funded. We're right at construction, are we
The
not?
design is, I received 90% plans about a week ago. So all that's needed is 3.5 for construction. Yes.
And so we're ready to go if we can get that money. And the others are still being designed and so on. And so I would like to leave that intersection at number 1.
We have a motion on the floor.
All right, yes, we have a motion from Mr. Blake. We have a second from Ms. Delaney to change 3 to 1. Oh, Mr. Willis.
I'm against dropping A1A even further down, for obvious reasons. I mean, everything that you can point to on the others above apply to A1A as well. So, I mean, we're having people being struck. We're getting the brunt of all the traffic to Cocoa Beach and to the port. We need to update. I would be opposed to it moving any further down.
Mr. Connors.
Thank you. I think it's all very clear that we're all very passionate.
Can you use a microphone, please?
Sorry. That's very helpful because I don't yell. I think it's very clear that we're all very passionate about the cities we represent, and we would all like our particular projects to be ranked number 1, 2, and get done. We all want that. Obviously, with the clear funding discrepancies, I think it's nice that we have folks at the TPO kind of as a third party to kind of rank these things based on priority and the data they're seeing. Don't get me wrong, like I live right off 405 in Titusville. I'd love to see that move up on the list, you know, but I don't know if it would make more sense if we all individually ranked them and they averaged them, you know, because otherwise we're going to be arguing all night about what projects go where. So that's just kind of food for thought. Take it for what it is, but I mean, we all want our projects to go top of the list.
They're currently ranked, you know, objectively based on data. So right now it's, you know, unless they're like, for example, in our next list, Malabar Road was discretionary ranked many years ago as number 1. So, but just to your point that this is data-based.
I would agree with that. We can sit here and nitpick it all day long, but there's I think a couple of realities that we're forgetting. One is the fact that something is ranked number 1 or number 2 does not mean it's going to be the first project that's built or designed or done. It's all, this is like the letter you write to Santa Claus for what you want for Christmas, but then Santa Claus gets to go through the list and pick what he wants to give you. And that's kind of what I think this really is. Am I that far off, Sarah? Kind of. But
It's really a tool to communicate where the Space Coast TPO as a governing board would like funding to go. So, in a sense, yes.
And Mr. Forster, I also think, you know, Fisk and Roy Wall, that's low-hanging fruit, kind of like the Malabar interchange.
Exactly.
But when we communicate with DOT about what our top state road is, I think it's important that we determine what is the top state road. So when you're talking to our legislators and we need to, if we could all get behind it and support it, not on the CIS list necessarily, but on a state road list, I think it gives us more power, kind of like Ellis. I think Ellis wasn't even a state road, but the DOT got behind it, and the DOT got behind it because they knew that that was the number one priority for the TPO and for the county as a whole. And I think that we need to do that for what is our number one state road. And so that is the question here. We need to be very clear to DOT what that is, so we can try to move forward our state road widening projects, which are just stagnant.
They're stacking up. They're stacking up. And prices are going up and up and up.
They all need right-of-way, and they're just lined up all the way down the list.
We have right of way on that one, so.
Mr. Hammer?
So here's my concern, and I get it, I love everybody wants to have their own thing. But what we need to realize is when we look through this packet at all of our projects that we have right now and we've had in the past, Palm Bay's not on any of them. It's not that we don't have it, it's we don't have construction being done in Palm Bay, and we haven't for a long time. For being how large we are, we have no projects going on in Palm Bay. I mean, this is Space Coast TPO, it's not Cocoa TPO. And I get it, Cocoa has a lot of people coming in and out, but there needs to be a point to where, you know, we've forgot about Palm Bay for a long time. Palm Bay hasn't been represented here. I get that, I understand that. But moving forward, there are things that, you know, we are the largest and we're mentioned one time on all these. So.
And I think the challenge,
We can talk population too. So.
and I know.
Start talking number of people, we'll
Yeah.
go into court.
Point of
We have,
order.
All right, hold
We
on
have a whole
here.
lot more people coming.
We still have a motion.
I'm saying residents.
Point of
Gentlemen,
order.
we
saying
have a
our
motion on
residents.
the floor. Gentlemen, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Blake and second from Ms. Delaney to move 3 to 1. That is the only motion we
Motion to
have at
close
the time.
discussion.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I think I can figure this out. We have, no, we're going to need a roll call. Thank you.
Okay. Atkinson?
I'm sorry, can we just say the motion, state the motion one more time?
We are moving
There.
the item in position 3 up to number 1.
And he had more, it's moving number 3 to number 1, number 2 remaining the same, moving 405 to number 3, and 519 to number 4. And so it would go 524, 501, 405, 519, A1A.
I'm glad you had that straight.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sarah.
that's why I get paid the big bucks. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's continue.
So Atkinson?
No.
Allender?
No.
Blake?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Connors?
Yes.
Delaney?
Yes.
Forrester?
No.
Foy?
Yes.
Hammer?
No.
Hanley?
No.
Jaffe?
No.
Young?
Yes.
Willis?
No.
7 noes. 6 yeses.
All right. Motion fails.
So, Mayor Blake, would you be interested in having 524 be number 2?
It's done. It's done. Move on.
Okay.
Next section.
I mean, you
All
can still
right.
make a
Well, that is his project.
Make another motion.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that 524 will be number 2. I'll just leave it like that for right now. 524 will be number 2. That's my motion.
And I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to move number 3 to number 2 from Mr. Blake, and we have a second from Mr. Hammer. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We move number 3 to number 2.
All right, we're getting somewhere.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we now move on to non-state roadways. So we are looking at Malabar, Wickham, Minton, Babcock Street South, so this is the section that is not a state road, and Hollywood Boulevard.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Ms. Atkinson?
So I'm still trying to figure out procedure here. So I'd like this to be a discussion. I'm not ready to make a motion of any kind at this point. I just want some discussion. So I personally drive over 20,000 miles a year in this county. The Wickham intersection is not near as miserable as every other part of Babcock on this list. So I don't know, I would like, and I know that you broke Babcock up. So I feel like we might be able to work with that, having some part, like you said, do it in pieces, moving some part of Babcock above Wickham, the intersection. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, who lives where, but I want a discussion.
It's bad section, I mean, being in Melbourne.
Can you use a microphone, please?
Oh, sorry. Being in Melbourne, being a Melbourne person, that area has been a disaster area. It's accident prone all the time. The road needs work, period.
What road are you talking about right now?
The Post Road.
This is for intersection improvement, that's what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
In that section, it hasn't been done in years. It's back from, I think the last time it's been like 1980 but it's getting worked on, so many people live in that section that of all of them, it is the cheapest one to do right now. So I'd ask to leave it there so that we can move it, just get that done, because it is a bad section if you go there in the mornings and the evenings, just any time of the day, God forbid on the weekends. So I ask that we leave it at number 2, because with Melbourne, we've been trying to do is put money together. I know there's been action with money together already with Melbourne.
Correct.
So if we can leave that there.
Melbourne has committed 25%, county has committed 25%. I would like to note that this project this is another one of those situations of, this project only can receive SCTPO funds, which is a state funding source that requires a 50% match. And so while it's on as number 2, it is not competing against the other projects. But if there's a perception of wanting, to say Babcock is number 2.
And
Any other thoughts?
Madam Chair, if I may, the section of Babcock from
Convair to Malabar.
Convair to Malabar is the most congested.
Correct.
Section.
That is the most heavily congested section along the full 4-segment corridors. And, of course, with all the development, it's expected to continue to increase.
And this is where all of Palm Bay's projects are. And the only reason we did not fully fund the design phase for $18 million is because we didn't have it. And the DOT gets federal money, and you can't use state money off the state highway system. So that's the challenge there. And the DOT has used a significant amount of their federal money, which they don't always do, to Ellis, which was an exception to the rule because it was this TPO's #1 priority. And so that is the challenge when you're dealing with projects off the state highway system. You just have federal money, one funding source, or SCTPO and TRIP with a 50% match, which we've used all over Malabar.
So,
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Mr. Connors?
I'd like to make a motion to move 4B to number 1, followed by 4A, 4C, and then Malabar, Wickham, Minton, Hollywood, Babcock.
What now? Did you get that?
Okay, to confirm, I have 4B is number 4B is number 1, 4A is number 2, 4C is 3, 4D or 6 is number 4, followed by Malabar, Wickham, Minton, and Hollywood.
I'm just moving forward to the top of the list and everybody else down, but because it was A, B, and C, I had to list them, but I figured because the discussion here for B should come before for A.
Correct, yes.
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who did the second.
Me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Delaney, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Connor. We have a second from Ms. Delaney. All those in favor of moving it as...
Discussion.
I'm just trying to get
So-
the order. Go ahead.
Hold on, Mr. Connors, let me confirm again, because you said, I misunderstood you the first time. So you did want to move all of the 4s to the top, or just 4B?
All of the.
All of the 4s, okay, so, okay.
4B would come first in
Okay,
the
yeah.
group of 4s.
Yeah, understood, just confirming.
But why would, let me ask, why would you do that if we only, the Wickham Road is going to be easily funded to move out? Why would you move 4 up to number 2 when we can get the funding probably a lot more easier for number 2? Since it's already been, we have 25% from the city, 25% from the county, so we can get matching funds for that. Why are you going to move that? I'm just asking him why are you going to move that so that we can move that maybe next year be off the whole radar?
I really wish before we have this meeting on this, we could get statistics on each and be able to know the stats of these we're discussing, because right now it's just like, who wants it in their city more?
In regards to statistics, what do you mean? Can you?
Traffic counts.
Traffic counts, like
So.
collisions.
The volume capacity is listed. And as I've already mentioned, the projects are ranked based on things like that. Now, we do have a spreadsheet that's about a mile long that has all, 25 of those criterias. We also do have resources out there on our website. We have a dashboard. So, I mean, we definitely can improve in the future next year and present it in a different way.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Mr.
I
Jaffe?
understand.
Ms. Gillette, if you could explain to the room, a lot of these roads, they're in Palm Bay, but who, I know they're not state roads, but who actually owns the road? Are they county roads, city roads? And if they're county roads, can you explain the challenges that the additional challenges that Palm Bay experiences because we don't control the roads?
They are county roads. You are correct. I know there's an interlocal agreement between Brevard County and the city of Palm Bay. But, they are county roads, and, the county, they do not have funding for capacity projects. They spend their money resurfacing roads. So the challenge is, the city is going to potentially have to make some sort of investments, but because it runs through the city of Palm Bay. So it is a challenge between Brevard County and the city of Palm Bay, absolutely.
If I could add, one of the things that we just passed.
Yes, Ms. Delaney?
Thank you. We just passed going for impact fee study to look into our impact fees. So hopefully that will, as long as the board approves, hopefully that'll be changing.
I mean, the county hasn't raised them since 2007, and by state statute, you can only raise them 50% every 4 years, so it'll take some
Unless there's a
time.
critical need.
They're passing language that's going to make that more difficult.
But it is my understanding that impact fees are being, as development is approved, banked for potential future investments into sections of South Babcock. It's just, I think this is the smartest thing to do, is to break this up. The discussion that we had with city staff for the section of Convair to Malabar.
Correct, yes.
Potentially, because the PD&E is so old, sitting on the shelf and not approved, it is really going to have to be updated. And so the city has come up with a plan to do a PD&E update on all of you already have all of the information from the original PD&E. So it would not be a heavy lift. And update this section and move forward with a design.
And we're,
then,
sorry,
is
we're correct, and we're meeting with FDOT, who did the original PD&E, I believe it's next week. It's either
Yes.
next week or the week after, along with city staff to discuss through that potential of moving Convair
Because we
forward.
don't want to jeopardize the federalization of it. We know that this project's
Mhm.
going to need some federal money, and we want to line it up properly.
So
That's 2 cents.
I would like to add to the discussion of, from a finish what you started perspective. Malabar being number one was discretionarily ranked by this board prior years ago, but also it's about to go into design. And so that project has the potential of moving a lot. I would hate for us to slow the momentum that Malabar has.
Just a minute, Mr. Jaffe.
By removing it as number one.
Mr. Jaffe, followed by Ms. Atkinson.
And for discussion before a vote is to be taken, for me, representing this part of the county, I support the list as it's presented right now.
I do too.
Ms. Atkinson?
So what I'm hearing from you is that the study that was done says that 4B is the most congested.
That is the current traffic count. So
Okay.
annually, we collect.
And we already have
traffic
Malabar
counts.
on its way.
Malabar is, the PD&E will be wrapped up this summer and it'll go into design.
So I wonder if Mr. Connors would accept a friendly amendment to your motion. Instead of moving all of Babcock up, would you consider moving 4B to number 2?
Yes.
4B is the Convair, which they just said was the most congested part.
So that would put us Malabar, Babcock, Convair to Malabar, Wickham at Post Road.
Yes.
That'll be our focus, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Connors, second from Ms. Delaney, to move just as the list that Sarah just gave to us. All those in favor of making this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, yeah.
All right.
I do have the TSMO and bike ped list if we do want to discuss those. Further, I will state that the bike ped list is almost exclusively funded with a specific funding source that can only be used on bike ped facilities, but if I will open up for any discussion. All right, so,
I just had a separate question, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr.
So
Jaffe.
when projects are looked at, when are just curb and gutter, is that due to stormwater and retention and cleaning the water before it goes to the Indian River Lagoon, or what's the purpose of just doing curb and gutter projects?
curb and gutter has, I wouldn't say that we ever just do a curb and gutter project, it
Except for A1A.
typically- Well, yes, but A1A, it's not necessarily being done curb and gutter because of stormwater. Yes, it's going to improve stormwater, and there's also significant flooding along A1A, but it's also providing better safety and improvements to the bicycle and pedestrians that are very, very active, and also that is, to Mr. Hammer's point of looking at safety stats, that is one of the biggest vulnerable road users, crash and fatality areas in the county.
Say we were to make the argument that Malabar, A1A, Babcock Street, Malabar Road, direct watershed pollutants directly into, canals that aren't treated.
Mm-hmm.
Could there be an argument made at the state level that there should be additional funding sources to protect the Indian River Lagoon that could open up a vast funding source that
Absolutely.
we haven't looked at yet?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
and
why don't we do that?
I'm not exactly positive what the process is, but we can go back and
Absolutely.
and chat and talk to our other MPOs around the state and see if anyone has any kind of precedent. We do have our Transportation Resiliency Master Plan, so we do have some teeth, I think, in the game because that identifies roadways, and I know Malabar for sure is one of those roadways that are within the FEMA floodplain. So, we have data that supports that these projects are within watersheds. So yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. If you guys go home and you think of any other questions or want to have any other discussion, here's my contact information. I will make those amendments. This will be posted for a 30-day comment period to the public, as well as also we will bring it back as amended based on your motions to be approved in July. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
With the.
Yes, Ms. Bellini.
With the public participation, what happens with that?
With any comments received,
Yeah.
I can tell you that in my 9 years of being at the TPO, we have never received a comment on the list of project priorities.
Oh, okay.
But if we did receive a comment, we would have a spreadsheet that has the comment and our response and how it was incorporated, as well as also when I present in July, I'd come back and I would let you know that we received these comments and see if you guys have any appetite for making any changes based on the comments.
And how does it get out to the public? Is it on your Facebook
Well,
page?
there's multiple methodologies, and Abby, do you mind coming up? And I depend on Abby to get all of my projects and programs out there.
Hi. So we're really lucky when the Transportation Improvement Program and the list of project priorities, they are always at the same time of year. So how we go out for public comment is we will put it out in our newsletters, on social media. We'll ask our municipal partners to share, all of our PIOs, Brevard County included, and also all of our jurisdictions, community partners like the chambers. It's a big to-do. And then with that, we also plug our open house so they can come in person to chat with us as well. But then we also have specifically for the Transportation Improvement Program, which is more the funding, we have a public comment portal that they can, submit online as well. A lot of the times, like Sarah said, it's more comments about projects. I'm experiencing congestion or construction, but we always make sure that we respond to every single comment, we document it. Our process is very thorough. Yeah.
And it comes back to us if we do get those comments? If you guys get those comments?
We normally include the public involvement process within the actual document itself.
Yes, the final tip that
final.
we'll adopt in July, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one more question.
Yes, Mr. Hammer.
I'm sorry, I got all these questions.
No, it's great.
Is there an alternative list? Say every single one of those lists don't get funded and they just sit there and ready. Is there an alternative list to those?
Well, you have, the LOP is dependent on the cost feasible plan within the LRTP. And so I guess your LRTP would be your alternative, but we would have to go through an amendment process. And so if we were going to, in mid-year, not, within the update cycle that we're in right now, but if, let's say in October, for some reason, money falls out of the sky and we need to add a different project, that would be an amendment to the list of project priorities brought before this board.
And that comes to us?
Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
We can always amend the list of project priorities and the long-range plan as needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or if you suddenly decide you would like to pursue a grant, we do have a grant-funded section that I didn't really go over because it's unranked, and it's basically just a holding box for any projects that municipalities are pursuing grants on. So we could easily amend that as well. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jordan, I just wanted to ask you about the projects that are in the SIS, just the SIS. How much impact do we have on this, our conversation and our ranking actually happening?
That's a very good question. So the DOT develops a SIS cost feasible plan, and they plan out projects that come from the revenue estimates that they receive out to 2050. And when the districts makes recommendations for the SIS projects, and they take that from the MPOs, from the TPOs, and then they turn that list over to central office up in Tallahassee. So really, central office is the one that determines what is included in that SIS cost feasible plan. But for the purposes of the MPO, we want to let DOT know these are our top priorities, so they can then share that with central office. The problem with the SIS is there's the needs far outweigh the money that is available, even with 75% of the state and federal money going to the SIS. It far outweighs it. And that's the challenge that we have. Ellis Road was a SIS connector. It never received one SIS dollar, which is the reason why we cobbled together TPO, FDOT district federal money, City of Melbourne, City of West Melbourne, and Brevard County. We had so many funding sources on that project, and then a SIB loan for the remainder, $15 million. So it is very challenging.
So even though we may have changed things around and we tell them our priority, that may not happen. They may just
Correct.
go with exactly what they have here in this order.
Or whatever they want to fund.
Or
That is
whatever, okay,
important,
or whatever they want to fund.
to them.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next item, sorry here. Draft year 26 to 30 transportation improvement plan.
All right, this will be a quick presentation. This is the draft 26 through 30 Transportation Improvement Program, and this is another one of our required work products required by federal and state law. So what is it? Well, for the new members, it's really a snapshot of the DOT's tentative work program of what's programmed. It identifies projects for maintaining and improving the transportation system for all modes. But most importantly, it really brings our vision to life, and it improves the quality of life for Brevardians. And of course, you know, this is our transportation planning bridge and how they all work together. And this is the TIP development process. If you wonder what time of year we do this, it's just really an overview, and the list of project priorities is approved in July. So everything that we discussed today will come back to you in July. It will all be ordered as you would like it. And then DOT will evaluate the funds and the costs. So after you adopt it in July, we turn that list over to DOT, and then they try to fund as many of those projects as possible. We sit down with Secretary Tyler and his team, Chuck. We sit down with the work program folks in DOT, and you know, it's about strategizing. And there has definitely been a big shift in local funding being a part of the funding mechanism, even for state roads. And so that is really important in that conversation. The tentative work program is approved by the governor in January each year. And then the draft TIP then is sent to the MPOs, and then we develop the Transportation Improvement Program, or the draft work program. And then we're going to have our open house June the 11th, and then the TIP will be adopted in July. So what are you approving? And in your agenda package, you do have the projects from the Transportation Improvement Program. It is 111 projects, $1.3 billion. It's real money on real projects. And if we take a look at the TIP for this year, the graph displays funding amounts for each transportation category. So as you can see there, highway and bridge capacity, 132 million. So these are major projects that are on our list of project priorities. Maintenance, preservation of the system. The DOT chooses those projects. They are constantly looking at the roadways, and this is resurfacing fixed capital outlay. Safety, so 13.8 million. These are standalone projects. You know, one might say that every project in our Transportation Improvement Program is really considered a safety project. If you're resurfacing the road, you're bringing it up to the latest standards, but these are standalone safety projects. Sidewalks and trails, 3.1 million. Technology, 17.5 million. This is our intelligent transportation system, traffic control devices. And then we go into our different modes, our modal agencies: transit, aviation, seaport, spaceport, and intermodal rail. And as you can see, the spaceport program is really the lion's share of the money. Space Florida, you know, their mission is to increase investment activity in Florida's aerospace ecosystem. And you know, a lot of the modal agencies, there is, when you look in the Transportation Improvement Program, you'll see a fund code called LF, which stands for local funds. And they require a 50% match, especially for the spaceport program. So it's not all state money. There is certain criteria where the modal agencies, to receive the money, you got to match it. It's the same way with the port as well. And so it really is bringing in that investment into the state of Florida. It's not all state money, but certainly the Spaceport program receives a lot of funding. And then for planning, 19.6 million, which is our Unified Planning Work Program, which is all of the studies that the TPO does.
We have a question
as well.
from Mr. Forrester.
Yes, sir.
But on the spaceport money, it's 600, almost basically half. Is the 50%, does that include the 50%?
Yes, yes, sir.
Is that plus 50%?
Correct. And the funding is reimbursable. So the way I understand it, the Spaceport Improvement Program, Space Florida, applicants submit projects to Space Florida, and then those applications go to the state, and then they're selected, and there is a priority list, similar to our priority list. And the modal agencies work directly with the different offices and central office. Those projects do not come through the TPO. However, they do need to be in our Transportation Improvement Program. They have to be approved.
Nothing for nothing. I understand the importance of the space program, but I look up here at highway and bridge capacity and maintenance, and I see 400 and some odd million, and then I look down at the spaceport, it's over 600 million. That just doesn't seem, it's like, do the taxpayers realize that half of our transportation money is going to the spaceport? I doubt it.
In the past, actually last year, this has come up before, and we have asked the question. We want to be sure that that the funding going to the Spaceport Improvement Program is not taken away from our transportation projects or surface transportation projects. And it is a dedicated program specific for the Spaceport program. That's what we have been told. We have actually had DOT come and present to us every year on the work program, and we had Allison McCuddy, who is over the Spaceport, working in the district, working with the Space Florida, and she presented on that as well. So we have been assured that it's not taking away from surface transportation, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but I would say it is good for Brevard County. So your point is well taken. It's not the first time that that's come up.
Okay, I mean, you say it's out of a pot of money, but it's all in the same piggy bank, so, it just, I just kind of have a problem spending that much taxpayer money on what's essentially supporting private industries. That's just not my thing. So,
All right.
okay.
If I could
Point
add-
taken, sir. Yes, Ms. Delaney?
I had the pleasure of going to the Artemis rollout, and I had the opportunity to speak to one of the people from Space Florida, and I shared that same concern with them. And they assured me that they're going to be talking to FDOT because, I know that those concerns are, a lot of people have those concerns. So he assured me that he would be looking into it. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and just highlight a couple. I'm not going to talk about Ellis Road widening anymore, but you will see in the tip, there's 92 million within the 5 years. Now that is a combination of right-of-way and construction, and of course it's fully funded. The other things I wanted to point out to you, there's new resurfacing projects in there. State Road 407, 2 segments of 407. State Road 524, Mayor Blake, from State Road 520 to the beach line. That's a very large resurfacing project. Hopefully the citizens don't think that it's the widening. It's not, kind of like similar to I-95. And Sarno Road resurfacing, and then there's 2 sections of I-95 resurfacing up in the northern part of the county as well. And there's a few ITS projects, safety and ITS projects as well. including the Malabar Road ITS communication system that Sarah covered. And so our public comment period is going to officially run from May 23rd to June 20th. We do receive comments on the tip. I will tell you that, Commissioner Delaney, and sometimes it's projects that are off the state highway system. Sometimes it's city streets, but you know, our citizens, they don't differentiate between whether it's a state road or a city street. So we do our best to answer those questions and get them in connection to the right people that can help answer that. But all of the public comments are included into a portion of our TIP document, which we will be providing to you in July, the complete document. And so we encourage you to share the information and invite people to come to our open house. Commissioner Atkinson, she's going to be sending out a newsletter, I think, to the Barefoot Bay community, and I think she's including our open house in that. And so I'm so appreciative of that. Anything you can do to get the message out, it's very, very helpful. And so that is the tip, and we will be sending it out via email to you all so that you can look at it online a little easier. And we would be asking for any comments or any questions.
I do have a question. So I've gotten some people reaching out to me about underneath the overpass for 95 for Highway 50 and 524 that they're in rough shape. And so is there a way to get those added onto any kind of lists, or?
Is it the bridge, the I-95?
Under the bridge.
The pavement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so for 524, that resurfacing should address that.
Okay.
That I just mentioned?
Okay.
So State Road 50 is the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look into that and
Yeah,
see where
those
it's
are the
at.
two that I've gotten emails
Okay.
about.
Yes. All
Awesome.
right. We will
Thank you.
check into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgiana. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, our next item is Vision Zero Action Plan 2024 Annual Report. Fanny. There we are. Thank you, Fanny.
Good afternoon. Patty Rendon, Transportation Planner, Space Coast TPO. I'll be presenting the 2024 Vision Zero Annual Report before Fanny Christensen with Kittleson and Associates goes into more detail on the 2024 Signal for Crash data. You should have a copy of the at-a-glance Vision Zero Annual Report, as well as the strategy tracking table at your spot. From 2018 to 2022, there were 427 deaths and 2,317 serious injuries on Brevard County roads. The Space Coast TPO and local partners adopted Vision Zero to combat this crisis, aligning with state and federal initiatives to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries. This annual report supports the updated Vision Zero Action Plan, which was adopted in February 2024, and also aligns with the Florida Department of Transportation's target of 0 fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. To give you some highlights from the 2024 wins, we worked with 34 collaborative partnerships, met with 12 law enforcement agencies, engaged 6 community partners in high injury network areas, and distributed free safety materials and resources to 35 communities. This year, in addition to the Rail Crossing Elimination Grant, the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant was awarded to the City of Palm Bay for the Emerson Drive project, which includes a sidewalk extension and speed management, and will improve safety for vulnerable road users, especially near local schools. The Space Coast TPO also received the FDOT District 5 Outreach Award at the inaugural Central Florida Safety Summit for the work done to spread safety messaging in our community. The report also showcases some of the outreach activities and partnerships, including with local law enforcement and participating in the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan Steering Committee meeting. These collaborations on transportation safety, along with our robust digital safety campaigns, are part of the efforts to connect with the community and advance the Space Coast TPO's Vision Zero priorities. The Space Coast TPO analyzed Brevard County fatal and serious injury crash data from 2018 to 2022 to understand where crashes occur and evaluate other crash characteristics. This analysis helped identify countermeasures and strategies for the updated action plan. Revisiting the crash data annually helps us track the progress of the action plan and the advancement toward the goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries. In 2024, 82 people died and 372 were seriously injured. However, 2024 did see an average 12% decrease in fatalities and serious injuries compared to the previous years between 2020 and 2023. I'll pass it over to Fanny now to go into more detail on the 2024 crash data.
All right, so I'm Fanny Christiansen with Kittleson and Associates, and I was part of the team creating the Vision Zero Action Plan. As Patty mentioned, going into these annual reports really help us track that progress to reaching 0, which is where we want to go when it comes to fatalities and serious injuries. So as Patty mentioned, we overall, from fatalities and serious injuries, there were a 12% decrease in 2024, but we still saw 82 fatalities and 372 serious injuries. So those are crashes where people don't walk away from. And we know that those numbers, 454 people, also have loved ones, friends, and families whose life are completely changed. So we're making steps in the right direction. That is the key takeaway from this. 12% in the right direction, but that is still a big number that we know that you all are working in your communities to getting that close to 0. And a lot of those projects we just talked about are going to help us get there. So that vulnerable road user is a very important aspect, and that's talking about pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists, because they make up 37% of those fatalities and serious injuries. And as you know, when you look at the number of vehicles and those vulnerable road users on the roads, they make up a small percentage of that group. So being a pedestrian or a bicyclist or a motorcyclist is more dangerous, and when you do end up in a crash, you're more likely to have a high severity. So a lot of these different strategies, as Patty mentioned, it's just engineering is only one of them. To get this number down to 0, we're going to have to focus on education, outreach, enforcement, and emergency response. And digging into the 2024 data a little bit more, this is where some of this information can help us target those projects, target those initiatives, and kind of help us see how can we address these problems to get that down to 0. 40% of all the fatalities and serious injuries in 2024 occurred at intersections. But you also had 30% that were lane departure related. So that could be run-off-the-road crashes, but it's also people departing from their lane, causing a side swipe, things like that. 30% are aging road users. We know that there is a large elderly population in Brevard County, but they're also making up a huge percentage of what those fatalities and serious injuries are. So can we do targeted outreach to that population? Are there other things we can do to help that number go down? Some other interesting things, 16% are speeding or aggressive driving related. So talking about enforcement, can we lower speed limits? 14% distracted driving. We have a lot of campaigns about putting your phone down and pay attention when you're on the road, but that percentage right there seems high, but I promise you that's underrepresented of what's actually happening on the roads. It's not a lot of people who admit that they were on the phone after they get in a crash. 13% are impaired driving. That's drugs and alcohol, one or the other, or both. And that's also something we can directly help impact with some of these strategies. and 11% are lack of occupant protection. Someone riding a motorcycle without a helmet, someone driving a car without a seatbelt. So a lot of really good trends here that are part of the Vision Zero action plan, and that we're going to keep tracking every year to see how they change, how our strategies and our efforts make an impact, and we will get there one day. We're making progress, and we're going to keep at it to get that down to zero.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments for Ms. Fanny from Kittleson? No comments? All right, thank you very, very much. All right, we're going to go to public comment here in a minute, but I wanted to just mention, you know, all of the cities here, we all signed on with the Vision Zero, and West Melbourne did too. And I didn't want it to be something, just one more thing that we signed and it got stuck in a file somewhere and nobody ever paid attention to it. So at our council meeting, Tuesday night, I asked our chief if he would please give me some things that West Melbourne has done that I could talk with you today. And some of your cities might be doing this already. And this is just a very short email, if you would just indulge me for a minute. And this is what he told me. With improved staffing numbers, the department has been able to designate another patrol officer as a member of the traffic unit, bringing this number to 3 full-time officers. You may have more. We're a small city. As part of their duties, they focus on high incident and high violation areas to conduct visible traffic enforcement duties. Our traffic stop and citation numbers have increased significantly over the last year. The traffic unit officers work varying times and days throughout the week to spread our enforcement and visibility throughout the week. Beyond the traffic unit focus on enforcement, all of patrol has been tasked with focusing on impaired and distracted driving. Our DUI enforcement has increased by over 50% in the last year. In addition, we have received grant funding from FDOT to conduct high visibility enforcement in certain areas of the city that are most prone to vehicle accidents with pedestrian and bicyclists. This grant provides for different levels of activity from in-person education events, a period for warnings, and then enforcement with citations when violation of key safety measures are ignored. Those who participate in this additional enforcement receive additional training and support for this initiative. To increase awareness of speed and improvement traffic safety, the department has also recently purchased 3 mobile speed awareness signs that will be deployed across the city in locations that we are aware of speeding issues and also in response to citizen concerns in their neighborhoods. In addition to raising driver awareness, the signs have a robust data analysis portion that allows us to make enforcement and deployment decisions based on compliance with speed limits. Members of our department have recently been trained as certified car seat installers, and we now offer a free service to our public where they can sign up to have an installation appointment for their infant car seats and peace of mind that they are installed correctly should they be involved in a motor vehicle accident. In addition to police department initiatives, I'm aware of several citywide initiatives, including the painting of high visibility sidewalk, installation of rapid rectangular flashing beacons for pedestrian crossings, installation of permanent speed awareness signs, among other roadway improvements. So these are the things that we have done in West Melbourne since signing on to Vision Zero. And again, I don't know if you've already done this or not, but I was glad to hear that we just don't have another dusty piece of paper sitting in a file somewhere. Anyone else want to make a comment on any of the things they've done in their city before we go to public comment? No, we're good? All right, public comment. Do we have any public comment cards? Anything else for the discussion? Good of the order? Our next meeting here is July 10th at 1:30. I know it was 2:30 today, but it is at 1:30. So do I have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.